Story 1. I teach throwing tomahawks at summer camps. Anytime I see someone throwing left-handed, I always have a tomahawk for them. If they miss or don't get it to stick, I make a show of saying, "Oh, you're using right-handed tomahawks while being left-handed. Here, try this one." They always throw better after that. Then the adults come over and ask me what the difference is. Story 2. I do not know if this qualifies, but 100% the easiest way to improve your relationship with anyone, spouse, friend, or family, is an unexpected gift at an unexpected time. Story 3. Telling myself, I will just do something light when I do not feel like exercising. It gets me started, and then I usually do a pretty good workout anyway. Story 4. My boss at a retail store taught me how to deal with customers who keep talking to you because they have nothing else to do. While they are talking, start walking toward the door while responding. They will naturally follow. Open the door for them while still talking, and they will walk through. You follow them outside the store and say, "Okay, well, have a great day." Then walk back inside. Story 5. Always present management with two options. The one you want them to choose and another that is clearly not a good idea. However, it should not be too obvious. Story 6. The best lies contain elements of the truth with subtle changes to suit the perception you want others to accept as reality. Story 7. When someone makes an insulting or sarcastic comment, act as if you do not understand or did not hear it. This removes their power if they have to repeat it. Story 8. I have 3 practices that I use all the time. When I make a mistake, I tell myself, I was always going to make that mistake because I didn't know any better. Thank goodness I do now. What lesson can I take away from this? Sounds cheesy, but it has become almost automatic. Similarly, when I feel something very strong and uncomfortable, I try to get curious about it. One of my friends who is passionate about fitness once described a metaphor for it. When doing Pilates, she often encounters a particular part of the range of motion that suddenly becomes difficult. That's a weak point being discovered, a place that can use some work. Emotions are like that too. When something hurts suddenly, there is something to observe, explore, and work on. This reduces the impact for me and takes me out of the overwhelmed state where I just want to blame. Lastly, I remember that my emotions and immediate thoughts are not under my control. That may sound self-indulgent or dangerous, but the important part is that my actions are under my control. There is no need to feel guilty about a thought that crosses my mind. It is what I do with it that defines the kind of person I am. Reading this, I see that it is mostly about influencing other people. I have never had much luck with that. Story 9. When conducting one-on-one meetings with people, especially when you want to get to the bottom of something, say nothing. Ask an initial question and let them talk. Respond minimally, using something small that does not change the direction of the conversation. Most people become uncomfortable and will fill the silence by talking more. You gain much more from this approach in some instances than by asking probing questions. It does not work on extreme introverts, though, as they do not mind the silence. Story 10. If you give something to someone while talking to them, they will automatically grab it. Story 11. Stop talking. If you are negotiating with someone, even over something small, and it is not going the way you want, just look at them and listen. They will reach a point where they have stated their position and know that you are unhappy with it. Let them be uncomfortable with the silence and continue talking themselves into a worse position. This works very well with salespeople delivering less than optimal offers. Story 12. If you are stuck talking to someone on the phone, walk to your front door and ring the doorbell or knock on it. Then say, "Hey, someone is at the door. I have to go." Say goodbye and hang up. This works every time. Story 13. If you misplace something, when you find it again, put it back in the first place you looked for it. Story 14. Get someone to say yes to a small request, and it significantly increases the odds they will agree to a larger one. When someone fulfills small favors for you, it greatly increases the likelihood that they will think favorably of you. Story 15. While it is not necessarily an answer, it is still important. The bystander effect. If an emergency occurs, a crowd may gather. The larger the crowd, the less likely it is that someone will help the person in need. However, if one person from the crowd starts helping, others will follow. If you are ever in a crowd and see someone needing help, be the first to help because no one else may do it, and more will follow. Story 16. When walking in crowded areas and an oncoming wall of people is consuming the entire sidewalk, just stop. Completely stop. They will move around you, clearing the path. It feels like Moses parting the sea. Story 17. If you need an answer to a question, do not just post the question. Also include an incorrect answer, and people will feel the need to correct you. Story 18. When I bring up a concern at work and the boss dismisses it, I say, okay, if you don't care, then I don't care. Every time he changes his mind and takes it seriously. Story 19. When dealing with irrational customers who are determined to create a scene but are not physically threatening, treat them as if they are a person experiencing a mental health crisis. Do not take it personally because it is not about you, even if they try to personalize it. Try to identify their actual issue and help solve it within reason, or set their expectations if their request or demand is unreasonable. Do not respond with the same tone or aggression. Remain calm and focused on the real issues, not any erratic behavior. Above all, remain friendly and as helpful as possible regarding any legitimate concerns. In my extensive customer service experience, this approach works about 95% of the time. Your calmness and helpfulness during their tirade will disrupt the feedback loop they aim to create to escalate the confrontation. This will defuse their outburst and leave them quiet or powerless when they realize you will not engage in their game. For the 5% who are unmanageable, ignore their loud complaints, address any issues you can, thank them and send them on their way. If they continue to engage, bring in reinforcements such as managers, coworkers, or security as needed, and do your best. Story 20. If you want to make someone uncomfortable because they are unpleasant, talk to them and do not look them in the eye. Look at their forehead. It slowly undermines their self-confidence, and they become so busy trying to figure out what you are doing that they forget to be rude to you. Story 21. Be an active listener and people will tell you more than they want to without realizing. Encouraging words and gestures at appropriate times are helpful. If you are also non-committal with your statements, you are halfway to being a decent lawyer. Story 22. When you can't choose between two things, do a coin toss. Do not look at the result. Pick the thing that you wish would have won. It works every time, at least for me. Story 23. My boyfriend used this on me for a long time before I caught on. Instead of asking me what I wanted to do today or where I wanted to go for supper, because my answer many times has been, I'm up for anything or wherever you want to go, he would instead say, guess where we are going today. I would name a place, and if he liked the idea, he would say, I got it. If not, he would say, guess again, until it was a place we both wanted to go. It was a great little workaround for two chronic people pleasers. Story 24. I love subtly encouraging my coworkers to like each other with very small actions that nobody questions. For example, telling one person something they did well or what is great about them and adding, X thinks that too. Then doing the same with Y, telling them X said so. I know it sounds unusual, but I enjoy it when they start to act nicer to each other and become friendly over time. You have to be very patient and not rush it. Keep it casual and simple just to leave a positive impression they have of each other. Eventually, it stops being a lie because they genuinely say nice things about each other. Story 25. Say thank you more. If you want to get someone to do something, positive reinforcement is much more effective than punishment. Story 26. Asking for a favor while someone is eating or has just finished eating works better if you are the one who provided the food. Their brain is satisfied and they are more agreeable. This approach has a very high success rate for me. Do not do it often or they will catch on. Note: you cannot offer a small snack and then ask for a large favor. This technique is best for small favors. Story 27. To play a trick on someone while golfing, ask them if they breathe in or out when swinging. Story 28. If you want children to do something or agree to something, tell them you will time them. Story 29. Brush your teeth after dinner. If you are like me, having to brush them again before bed is enough of a deterrent to keep me from having a midnight snack. Story 30. If you are getting frustrated, force a smile. I think it is motor neurons that control this, but I could be wrong. Your brain recognizes some actions as connected to mind state, such as tense muscles indicating anxiety and smiling indicating happiness, and will operate in reverse. You can relax your muscles to achieve calm, and you can smile your way to relief from anger. This insight comes from a teacher who smiled at many children. Story 31. Letting people who are wrong think they are right and then minding my own business saves me a lot of energy and peace of mind. They can never know my Jedi ways. Story 32. If you find yourself in a stressful situation and need to clear your mind, try to recite the alphabet backwards in your head. From experience, it helps shift your focus and calm you down. I have done it so many times that I can recite it backwards as quickly as I can forwards. This also has the added benefit of impressing my children immensely. Story 33. When someone is emotional and explaining why, respond by briefly matching their level of emotion. Then step back with progressively softer statements ending in a question and a possible solution. This shows them that you are listening and care while subtly de-escalating. Story 34. I do not know what they call this, but it is a method that Viktor Frankl used to survive psychologically the Nazi death camps. This mental practice involves using your imagination to create a world you want to live in. It gives hope and the drive to live. I believe it is called logotherapy. This has saved me countless times. Story 35. I once read a suggestion about customer skills that I love. Basically, if someone calls you upset about something, and you downplay it, they are not going to feel heard and will escalate their upset. But if you overplay it, oh no, your cable was out for 2 hours? How frustrating. I am so sorry you went through that. They are more likely to feel heard and respond reasonably, possibly even calming down from their initial anger to, well, it was not really that big a deal. People really just want to feel like you are appreciating the difficulty they had. Story 36. Tell someone you have a knock-knock joke for them, and then have them say, knock-knock, first. Story 37. Good for dates or strangers when you do not know what to talk about is to ask them questions about themselves. Listen to their answers and ask follow-up questions. Everyone likes to talk about themselves, or at least it is easy to do so. Story 38. I often talk with people who are upset about something, so I use the following 4 strategies. 1. Start with the phrase, so what's going on? It is casual, chatty, and lets them set the agenda. 2. Tell them, so you're upset about under. They will either confirm this and feel heard or tell you no and explain what they are upset about. 3. Repeat the last couple of words of their sentences. Keeps them talking and helps them feel understood even if you do not. 4. If you need to get information from someone, tell them you already know the secret and make something up. The urge to correct you will be strong, and they will reveal the truth. Story 39. Stay silent when someone is lying or guilty. They get so uncomfortable in the silence they start backpedaling. Silence, in general, is very powerful. People are naturally uncomfortable with it. Story 40. I keep candy in my office and used to have it in my room when I worked in student affairs. Once people know you have it, they will come to you. Then you can engage with them and build rapport without having to pursue them. They will tell you a lot of things when they get used to the candy and chat ritual. I also keep a magic 8-ball, which is a wonderful conversation starter. Story 41. The read technique. A few months ago, for example, I got my neighbors to admit to putting water in my gas tank by telling them I had security camera footage of them doing it and that I would not call the police if they admitted to it. I do not even have cameras, and I still reported them to the police anyway. Story 42. Opposite action. If you have no energy, you will probably feel better going for a walk. If you feel like isolating yourself, you will likely feel better reaching out. If you feel lazy, complete an easy task on your to-do list or clean one thing. Use common sense. If you are tired from physical exertion, you should rest. If you have been dealing with people all day, you might need some alone time. But if you are in a depressed state and have not done anything in a while, you will feel a kind of gravity pulling you to continue that, even though it will not make you feel better. Story 43. If you want someone to like you, ask them for a small inconsequential favor. Most people will agree to a small request, and unknowingly, by helping you, they invest a bit of interest in you and are thus more likely to look favorably upon you in the future. It can be something as simple as asking them to pass the salt. If you are in a highly engaged social situation and want to leave soon, the fastest way to find the right answer to a question is to state an incorrect answer. You can poke the back of someone's neck with two pens at the same time, and it will feel like a single pen poking them because only one nerve carries sensations from this area. If you are in school and have to do a presentation but think yours is underwhelming, volunteer to go first. No comparison will usually earn you a better grade, even if no extra credit is offered. This is a social phenomenon. Have you ever been to a fair with a large jar of gumballs or something similar and needed to guess the amount? Individuals perform unpredictably at this task, but you are unlikely to find a guess that is very close. However, if you add all the guesses and divide by the number of guesses, the result will be very close to the actual amount. The more participants, the closer the average is to correct. Group thinking is powerful. If you have ever seen the moon appear really big as it rises or sets on the horizon, it is an optical illusion our brains create. If you were to stand on your head, the moon would appear normal. In a best-of-3 game of rock, paper, scissors, the best strategy is to play the same move all 3 times. Story 44. Use primacy and recency to your advantage. Primacy is the first impression people have of you. Recency is the most recent impression people have of you. These are most impactful as people construct their current opinion of you. For example, if you perform well in the first month and are really on top of it right before performance evaluations, your boss will not pay much attention to the middle period even if you perform at a mediocre level. They will focus on their first and most recent perceptions. Story 45. Do not apologize to customers. Thank them for their patience and time. Offer them a reward if they were truly patient. This approach prevents anger or complaints. Story 46. If someone accuses you of something serious that you know is untrue, take it seriously. Really seriously. Hey Bob, there's money missing from the cash register. Did you take it? No. I think you did. I see. Well, that's a pretty serious allegation. If you genuinely believe I took it, I think you are obligated to immediately report it to management. Why don't we go and speak to them together? We can also ask them to review the security tapes so that we can get to the bottom of this as soon as possible. Then walk straight to the manager's office and say, "Hi Dave. Tony says that cash is missing and believes I took it. I absolutely did not. But these are serious allegations that could have serious consequences and need to be dealt with properly. I understand there is a process to follow. I assume the company will be contacting the police to file a report. I would appreciate it if you could provide me with the name of the officer contacted and the report number. Given the nature of the allegations, I would also like to request a copy of today's security footage. Hold that position firmly. If they start to back away from the allegations, then follow up persistently. Make sure they know that people spreading false accusations will face consequences. However, do not make threats you do not intend to follow through on. Story 47. If you want to get information, make people uncomfortable by silence and a simple question. Why? Story 48. Ignoring someone when they try to antagonize you is important. When someone says something unintelligent, turn your back and walk away as if you do not want anything to do with them. When someone says something you do not agree with, do not respond. Just stare at them. It unnerves them. The book, The 48 Laws of Power, is also a good read. Story 49. Assimilation involves naturally and subconsciously mimicking what the other person is doing. I find myself standing with a wider stance when talking to customers who are smaller than me. Maintaining good eye contact when someone is explaining something shows attentiveness. Leaning into the boardroom table while they explain demonstrates interest subconsciously. Subtle head nods after points are made help show engagement. Adjust your tone of voice when speaking to different people on the phone. Address older people as Mr. or Mrs. followed by their surname. Use a softer voice when talking to women, and be more fun and laid back when speaking to people my age. Also, during a heated exchange or a tense moment, if there is a pause in conversation, maintain silence. This often unsettles the other person and usually The first person to speak afterwards is at a disadvantage. I once had a 45-second standoff with the old accountant at work. We were both using the same tactic, and it ended with the conversation stopping. Fortunately, it was on the phone. Story 50. Women are statistically more likely to throw scissors on the first shot during rock, paper, scissors. Go ahead and try it. It is not 100% guaranteed, but it is definitely provable. Story 51. Saying high five, but not lifting your hand to clap the other person's hand. Story 52. Kids give you grief for things like bedtime or dinner. Give them a series of heads up first. 30. Hey, bedtime in 30 minutes. 15. Start thinking about wrapping things up. Bedtime in 15 minutes. 5. Bedtime in 5. Start wrapping it up. 0. Bedtime. Off they go. Story 53. If you talk and someone interrupts you, keep talking but quieter. They will listen when you reach the perfect volume. Story 54. Looking at a person's forehead will make them uncomfortable. Story 55. The more you talk, the more chances you will have to make mistakes. Think before you speak. Do not speak if it is not necessary. Story 56. Do not self-focus. What I mean by this specifically is focusing on your own body and what you think other people are seeing. We are really bad at judging what we think other people are seeing and having lots of attention on yourself. Are my hands moving enough? Is my voice shaking? Am I sweating? Am I blushing? Can they see me trembling? What am I going to say next? Only serves to make anxiety worse. I am a therapist, and this is one of the biggest maintenance factors of social anxiety disorder. But it is also helpful in other contexts. Sports psychologists teach their athletic clients not to self-focus as well. The way to do this is to practice shifting your attention from internal to external. For example, name things in the environment. During social interactions, really try to lose yourself in the conversation. Focus on the other person, what they are saying, what they seem to be interested in, and how you can find out more. Story 57. Smiling with your eyes will instantly make people feel comfortable around you. Story 58. Honestly, it's different strokes for different people. Kindness is a pretty good shortcut. People aren't used to it. Normally, people who argue use the deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender Darvo technique and self-project. So, it's easy to see what's wrong with them. Story 59. For remembering new people's names, immediately imagine them meeting someone you know with the same name. For example, hi Kevin, nice to meet you. And immediately imagine this new Kevin meeting your coworker named Kevin at work. Of course, if you meet someone with an unusual name you have never heard before, then it may be more difficult. Story 60. Look at their forehead or ear when talking to make it seem like you are talking through them. Establish dominance. Story 61. I like that one where people holding heavy objects are less likely to be cut off while walking in traffic like a brick. Story 62. When I am late for something, I call or text and say that I will be significantly later. 15 minutes late for work, I will call and say I will be there in 30 minutes. Sometimes people are happy that I am earlier than expected, and I am not in a rush when I am late. Story 63. Shower someone with compliments if you need something from them and you know they do not like or respect you. There was a man at work in middle management who was always condescending to me. I figured out his vanity points and pushed them. I appeared to give him power over me, but in reality, I had power over him because he would do whatever I asked as long as I fed his ego and made him think it was in his best interest. Story 64. Asking my children not to do something that I actually want them to do. Story 65. The distress caused by pain is an emotion that you can control in the same way you control anger or fear. You cannot change the physical sensation of pain, but you can control your emotional response to it. Take a deep breath and count to 10. Acknowledge that you are feeling pain and that it is just another sensation. Do not try to ignore your pain or tense up. Relax if you can. Keep breathing and focus on staying calm. When you are in a situation where you are in pain and cannot immediately relieve it, doing this will help you feel less stressed. Story 66. This is a basic tip. If you say someone's name when greeting them regularly, It will help you more easily build rapport and be trusted. Story 67. When questioning anyone, whether a criminal or a child, and you are unsure of their innocence, start with 3 unthreatening questions related to the person you are speaking to, such as how their day was or how their favorite sports team is doing. Then follow up with a direct question related to the investigation that cannot be answered with a yes or no. For example, I noticed some cookies missing from the jar and you and Scruffy are covered in crumbs. Why is that? This approach is very effective at causing a guilty person to either shut down completely or stumble while trying to invent a lie on the spot. Story 68. If I encounter a barrier with a person, it is amazing how often just saying, "Do not worry about it," disarms them enough to do what I wanted. Story 69. I use a method called Eat the Frog. You look at all the tasks you have to do today and pick the one you want to do the least. Do that first. After you complete it, the rest of the day becomes much easier. Doing this daily makes your week easier and better overall. Story 70. The best psychological strategy is communicating clearly, directly, and succinctly without having to play word or mind games with people to get what you want. Story 71. When doing things that require discipline over a long period, such as losing weight, eating healthy, working out, or quitting smoking, wake up in the morning and tell yourself, "I'm not going to smoke any cigarettes," or "I am going to the gym today." In other words, take it literally one day at a time. The goal is not to lose 20 pounds. The goal is to eat well today. You can do that. You can absolutely do that. So get up and do it. We don't build walls all at once. We wake up every day and lay the best brick we can. Then you start to stack days. You turn around in 1 year and suddenly you have a very good wall built. Story 72. Agreeing with and encouraging irrational people shuts them up. They say, "Gays will be the end of society." And you respond, "Let's kill them all," starting with 3 of my uncles, 2 of my friends, and basically all of California. Then they change the topic very quickly. It works every time. Story 73. When I rode in my younger sister's car, she would blast her music. When I asked her to turn it down, she would turn it up to spite me. Now, instead of asking, I speak just below the volume of the music, and she turns it down to hear me. Also, she always hated my playlists and would complain when I played music. So I put one song she liked in my playlist, started with that one, and shuffled. She never complained about the same playlist she had complained about before. Story 74. Delivering bad news is always easier with the sandwich method. For those who are unaware, this involves layering the conversation with a positive opening, followed by the main issue, and ending with another positive statement. "John, I need to talk to you in my office. I have been reviewing your ideas, and they are fantastic. Your brother just called and said your father passed away suddenly. Don't forget this Friday is our work party, and everyone is excited that you will be there." Story 75. This is how artificial intelligence and extraterrestrials are going to learn about us and take over the world. Story 76. If you want to be heard, talk softly. I can give myself permission to skip working out, but only after I put on my workout clothes. Story 77. When you want to avoid a time waster or manager delegating more work to you, take a clipboard and pen, jot something down, and walk at a brisk pace. They will think you are on a task and leave you alone. This works best in a large organization. Story 78. Hold out your hand. Pretend you are holding a salt shaker. Focus on the imaginary salt in the shaker. Take the salt shaker and shake the salt into your open mouth. Really focus on the salt. If done correctly, you can taste the salt. It works about 60% of the time. You may need to try shaking the salt into your mouth slower or faster to make it work. Closing your eyes helps. For some people, imagining 2 salt shakers, 1 in each hand, shaking salt into the mouth is more effective. Story 79. If you stand with a few people and look at the ceiling, others will begin to do the same. Story 80. If you suspect someone is not being truthful, just ask them the same question in a different way. It is hard to keep track of lies. Story 81. It is simple, but replying to someone by saying, "You would," followed by what they just said is often unhelpful. For example, if someone says, I want water. You would reply with you would want water. Even if it is benign, this response usually makes someone defensive. Story 82. A random question to derail a rant. I work with customers. They start complaining about one thing or another, and I mention something completely unrelated out of the blue. It short-circuits their brain, and they forget what they were saying. Story 83. Do this to people who drive BMWs, especially the 3 Series. Hey, that's a nice Toyota Camry you drive. Not a Camry? Are you sure? They look just like a Camry. It is surprising that BMW copied Toyota. My mistake. Now every time that person sees a Camry. Story 84. When talking one-on-one, observe if the other person is mirroring your body language. Change your position or pose and see if they subconsciously follow your lead. If they do, they are consciously or subconsciously trying to be socially pleasing to you. If they do not, they may not be interested in you or the conversation. They might actively look down on you, or they could be trying to manipulate the social dynamic as you are. You can then steer the conversation to help determine which situation it is. It is a fun way to stay engaged in social interactions. Make it a game. Story 85. One thing I like to joke with people about is height. I am relatively tall at 6 feet 3 inches, and occasionally I talk to guys who are noticeably shorter, around the 6-foot mark. They ask me my height and I claim about 6 feet. It is funny to see their reactions because they insist they are 6 feet, so I must be much taller. I then say, okay, maybe I am closer to 6 feet 1 inch, and they get very upset because they are determined to maintain their 6-foot status. Story 86. At poker, pretend to be unintelligent. This strategy works even better if you are not Caucasian. Story 87. If you tell 2 people they have a crush on each other when they do not, they just might. Story 88. If you are wondering whether a person is interested in a conversation, look at where their feet are pointed. If they are pointed towards you, they tend to be more interested. If they are pointed away, they are not. Story 89. I learned this after multiple instances of worrying. I had forgotten to lock our shop. If you need to remember that you have done something, like locking up properly, repeat a unique phrase 3 times after completing the task. Can be anything, but vary the words each time. When you think back, you will naturally hear the words and know you have completed the task. Story 90. Always work at 60% effort, and when it is really needed, increase it to 80%. This approach always worked with previous supervisors when I worked in information technology, and I consistently maximized my bonuses. Especially if you are better at your job than everyone around you. For example, if you are told, I need X, Y, and Z done by Friday, then increase your effort and have it completed by Thursday. Story 91. Expressing yourself in terms of what you want. If someone asks you to do something, many people try to give a gentle response or justify why they do not want to do it. Once you start justifying, you give people the opportunity to argue back. If you say, sorry, I cannot buy this car. I have had many expenses recently. The salesman can respond with, that is okay. You can pay in installments. If you say, okay, I have decided not to buy, then there is very little they can do. If they ask why, just say, all things considered, I have decided not to buy. You can stick to that in most situations. What I really like about this approach is that, in addition to being very powerful, it is also very honest, so it is not really a trick at all. Story 92. When working out, if my goal is 10 repetitions, I like to count to 5 and then 5 again. For some reason, it feels easier to do 5 times 2 than 10 times 1. Something about the smaller number and bite-sized chunks makes it easier to mentally focus on. Story 93. Did this a year ago. How do you spell fork? Forty. What do you eat your cereal with? 9 times out of 10, they will answer fork. You have to tell them, I eat my cereal with a spoon. You are welcome. Story 94. If someone is speaking and you remain silent beyond their social cue for you to respond, they will either think you are strange or continue talking to fill the silence. Story 95. When someone has the hiccups, ask a random question. For older married people, ask what kind of underwear they wore on their wedding day. For younger people, ask what underwear they wore on their last date. For really young people, ask what pajamas they wore last night. People focus so hard on remembering that they forget they have the hiccups. Story 96. I worked emergency dispatch for a very large police department in Florida. During training, I was warned I would deal with many angry people. The best method I found to calm people down was telling them, "I am here to help you. Let us get this taken care of together." It worked every time, to the point my trainers were amazed. One trainer, who had been there over a decade, was literally amazed and asked me, "How did you do that?" I was fired after 4 months for being too nice. Story 97. In sales and other situations, if someone mirrors your gestures and body language, they like what they are hearing, and you are in control of the conversation. Story 98. Greet people with elevated enthusiasm. Smile. Say their name. Seem happy to see them. Be slightly over the top. People respond very well to this. It is a good start to long-term professional relationships. Story 99. Silence, especially when someone is lying to you, is a powerful truth serum. Story 100. If you act very excited to see people, they like you more. Especially when new people start at my job, I act very excited to see them and call them by name. No one likes being the new person or the odd one out. I have made a lot of friends this way. Story 101. If you want someone to like you, ask them for a small favor, such as borrowing a pen or a lighter. Creates a bond through a mini crisis. Story 102. If you want to control a conversation, especially in sales, when someone is rambling off topic, stop them and ask, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" They will always say yes. Then, bring them back under your control by asking a question about something you want to discuss. Story 103. If you are on the phone with an angry customer, calmly repeat the situation back to them. This makes them feel heard. And if their complaints are excessive, hearing them calmly might highlight how unreasonable they sound. Story 104. When you forget someone's name and want to ask them without offending them, ask if they have a nickname. Story 105. Lots of research suggests that, while we think that motivation leads to action, actually, it is the other way around. Action leads to motivation. Motivation is overrated, at least as a catalyst for doing the thing. Story 106. I'm still learning things that I feel most productive people already know. If I lie around all day, I'm tired because I never really woke up. It is the lying around that makes me tired, not the other way around. Story 107. Remember little details that people tell you about themselves or their lives. For example, their birthday, their spouse or children's names, or anything else. If you ask them about one of those details the next time you see them, you will not only pleasantly surprise them, but they will quickly begin to like you and view you favorably. This usually leads to them agreeing to nearly anything you ask of them. It is remarkable how often this has worked for me, not even doing it out of seeking something in return, but simply trying to be a decent human. It has been quite rewarding. Credit to author Dale Carnegie for that insight. Also, using the triangle stare on someone, whether you just met them or are interested in them, absolutely works. The sheer disorientation that comes over them when you do it is amusing. Story 108. My top psychological strategy is that you can save yourself countless hours of strife by recognizing that arguing facts is only part of the persuasive process, and empathy has far more influence than logic. If you want to persuade someone you disagree with while avoiding a heated dispute, begin by asking them to explain their position. Then tell them what you admire about their position, what you agree with, and how you understand why they feel the way they do. This reduces their frustration and makes them see you as an ally, making them more receptive to what you have to say. It also helps you remain open to the possibility that you might be wrong and allows genuine progress in your relationship. Alternatively, you can tell them why they are wrong by overwhelming them with facts. You might win the argument, but you will likely damage your relationship. Over time, resentment can build and reach a tipping point at which the original argument no longer matters. Source: years of personal observations, testing different methods, and my own marriage to a therapist. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.